Hey, what's going on? Luke here, and yesterday I did a video where I went over the Queensland side and I talked about any changes that I had made, and sort of at the end of the day I pretty much decided that I probably wouldn't make any changes, maybe a few here and there, but for the most part the team was pretty good. Now it's New South Wales' turn. Would I make any changes to the New South Wales side? Very similar to Queensland, I wouldn't really make any changes. I think the side is about as strong as you can get. The back line I 100% agree with, 1 to 7. The forward pack, there's like a few where I'm like, is Jake Trbojevic, is he better off starting or is he on the bench? Just a few of those sort of ones, but that's pretty much all it comes down to would be sort of the bench sort of combination. Like with Payne Haas, I'd probably start him rather than Jake Trbojevic, bring him off the bench, but at the same time, Trbojevic starting, I don't really have any problems with. In terms of the rest of the side, Tariq Sims is probably the only one that I really look at and I go, not sure how he got selected. I know he's played in previous years, and I thought in previous years I didn't think he was that good when he actually played. He's just one of those players, I don't really think of him as a second rower who's a New South Wales standard or caliber sort of player, and yet he still finds himself in the side. Now, it's largely due to the fact that Tyson Frizell went down injured in this previous game, but at the same time, he still had to have been on the radar and probably was already on the bench considering Frizell went down injured, and now Sims is going straight into the starting lineup. And I know Liam Martin was on the bench, and I think he's a good inclusion, and maybe Sims, maybe he wasn't in the side and then Frizell's gone down and he's jumped straight into the side, but I think a lot of New South Wales problems, I think it is the back row. You got Cameron Murray, who's not really a second rower, he's more of a lock. You got him playing second row, and he sort of had proved at South that he's a better lock than he's a second rower, but I think he's sort of good enough that I think with the South experiment it was more due to the fact that he was just way more effective for them at the lock position, whereas the Blues already have some quality locks, so they can afford to play him in the second row, and it's not going to be that big of a deal. Whereas at South, they were moving him from lock just to play him in the second row, but it didn't really make sense as to why they're actually doing it. And the person that they had covering him just quite frankly wasn't as good as Cameron Murray, because his assets are that he's got a quick play of the ball and he just has a great motor. He can keep going through the middle. Whereas on the edge, I don't know if it's as effective, but at the same time, the Blues have some great locks in the side, and we've seen them, like, the best players from New South Wales at the moment are all locks, and they're sort of just chucking them into other positions. Even guys who missed out. You look at Nathan Brown, he can play there. Dale Finucane can definitely play there. But I feel like if there was just one inclusion that I would have made, I probably would have picked Ryan Madison over Tariq Sims. But at the same time, Tariq Sims has been playing half decent. Probably better than half decent, actually. I think he's actually been quite good for the Dragons this year, and I think it helps that the Dragons themselves have been travelling a lot better than they have been in the past. But just on Tariq, it doesn't fill me with confidence having him in the second row, so it definitely is a weak point for me. And considering you look at who Queensland have in their second row, you got Tino, you got Dave Fafita, and Kafusi. That's a very, very strong back row. And then the Blues have got a guy who doesn't really play there. Even Sims, like, I know he's a second rower, but I feel like he's sort of a second rower / prop these days. So even then, just the back row doesn't fill me with confidence. But we've got to look at all the outs that the Blues actually have. Cordner can't play. We've also got Crichton suspended. Victor Radley's not there. The man who's actually supposed to be there, Tyson Frizell, he's not there. So that's a lot of good back rowers there who are not available for selection. So I know Queensland got a few players to come in for game 2, but New South Wales also will as well, bearing injury and that sort of stuff. But I think the second row is definitely a point where New South Wales look to improve on, because I don't know if Tariq Sims is the one that you want there. However, I guess he's kind of the best of the bunch. But even Colin Matangi on the bench, or 18th man, whatever he is, I don't really, like, he's a good young player, definitely a good young player, but at the same time, Ryan Madison's been knocking on the door for a couple of years now, and I know he's had a lot of head knocks, so that's probably a big part as to why he hasn't been picked. And even in terms of him playing for the Eels, there's him and Sean Lane as well is another good one. Guys who could potentially be in there, but I feel like Freddie didn't really consider him. And I think Ryan Madison pretty much is just due to the fact that he's had the head knocks and hasn't played much this year. So I think that's why he didn't get picked, more so the fact that, like, I think he is probably a better player than Tariq Sims, but just the fact that he hasn't got the runs on the board in 2021, I think that's why he's going with Tariq Sims. Plus, we know Tariq, look, he's fit, he's going into the game, and we know he's got aggression. That's what you need in Origin. Just need some controlled aggression, especially with all the rule crackdowns. But Ryan Madison, I think he'll get a go eventually. But at the same time, like, a lot of head knocks, but I don't know. Just my whole thought process for Ryan Madison was that I think he offers a little bit more versatility on the bench than what Tariq Sims would, or even in the starting side, I should say. Just the fact that he can play in the halves, and I just feel like he'd be a lot more suited to State of Origin. Even guys like Wade Graham, I don't think were even considered. So it does show you just how different the New South Wales side is these days, because those guys were definitely mainstays, your Wade Grahams, Josh Jacksons, all those sort of guys, and now they're not even in consideration. So look, this is probably a good move for New South Wales, the fact that they're not going to the old guys, but at the same time, don't know if Tarek Sims is the one that you want. But the rest of the side, though, I can't really complain about it. There's a lot of people who probably say, oh, Cody Walker should get picked, or stuff like that. Even like Pappenhausen, I know he's injured, but there'll probably be a lot of talk for him to come onto the bench instead of Jack Whiten for game 2 or 3, depending on when he's back. But for me, I think this is a pretty spot-on lineup. And I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of shocked with the lineup, because usually Brad Fittler goes with some real out-there picks. But for this one, I think he's absolutely nailed it. We'll see how Jack Whiten goes on the bench. That could be a bit of an iffy one, just in terms of they could just add another forward there. Or actually, I feel like these days with all the concussions and stuff, you definitely got to have the utility on the bench. But we'll see how he goes. But guys, leave in the comment section below. That's my thoughts on the New South Wales side. I wouldn't really make any changes apart from maybe Tarek Sims and a few changes into the 4-pack in terms of the guys that they've already picked, but just changing the bench and that sort of stuff. So yeah, leave in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on the New South Wales side? If you happen to miss my Queensland version of this, go back and check it out. It's probably a little bit more in depth than this one, a little bit more to talk about, because they have quite a few injuries and a lot more players who kind of haven't really sealed a position into the lineup. So I think it's a lot more fun than the New South Wales one. New South Wales it's pretty good. It's 1-70. I think you kind of can pick this one yourself. But yeah, that's how I'm going to wrap this one up. If you happen to enjoy it, make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and turn on the notification bell. Super important in terms of you actually seeing the video, because we know the sub boxes, they're not exactly reliable. So go ahead, use the notification bell and never miss a video of mine. Also, while you're at it, give me a follow on social media. It's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke and YT for the most part. Mr. Luke just for Facebook, but for everything else, it's Mr. Luke and YT. So go ahead and give me a follow and give me a like, do all that sort of stuff. And that's where I'm going to end this video. Stay tuned for more content on the channel. Origin time's here, so going to be uploading every day pretty much. So stay tuned for more content on the channel, and I'll see you next time. See yous.